full-time freelance content creator and event manager in the zero waste and sustainability place. She left her advertising career behind last summer to pursue her passion for fighting climate change and devote herself to learning everything there is to know about zero waste. She is the co-founder of the Zero Waste NYC workshop series and works with clients that include New York Sunworks, a nonprofit that builds hydroponic farm labs in the New York City schools. She also works with Clean Choice Energy and other sustainability-focused organizations. And this next part I really love. You can follow her zero waste tips on Instagram at Zero Waste Chick. So, Sandra Noonan is the founder of the Zero Waste NYC Meetup Group and co-founder of Zero Waste NYC Workshop Series. In September 2019, she took the role of Chief Sustainability Officer at Just Salad, home of the world's largest restaurant reusable bowl program. So how many in here have those reusable green bowls? I do, I have one. They're just great, yeah. They're terrific. Nicole and Sandra started Zero Waste NYC, the workshop series, to inspire and empower New Yorkers to be the best they could be at zero waste. Sandra and Nicole, we are excited to hear and learn from you.
Thank you so much. Good evening. We are going to dive right in. So we have a ton to cover, and we want you to leave this room being a zero waste expert. So today's presentation, we're going to go through all of these topics, and what I would just say is going zero waste is definitely a journey, and it definitely involves the reduce, reuse, recycle framework. It's really, it's a process of not only getting rid of the things you have in a sustainable way, it's also a process of bringing in things that are more sustainable. And that takes a lot of time and energy and thought, and we're going to try to guide you through it so it becomes easier, or it's an easier process for you. We're going to skip right through this. And just quickly want to acknowledge these wonderful businesses that are here tonight at the back of the room. Grounded Upcycling is taking coffee grinds and turning them into soap. They're upcycling coffee grinds into soap. Please check them out, talk to them, and if you know a coffee shop that's interested in partnering with them, let them know. And then our dear friends at Farm to People are bringing local produce to our doorsteps. So a great grocery delivery option to check out that's much less carbon intensive, more local, and we love them. So check them out as well. Rachel's in the back. Okay. All right. Just maybe a couple people. Do you want to who want to volunteer what you are really trying to get out of this workshop? Anyone want to? Yeah.
When you say volunteer, I want to volunteer.
Anything you'd like to get out of the workshop in particular?
Well, mostly on the zero food reduction, because there is a lot of waste of food.
Food waste, huge topic, yeah.
In Whole Foods, because I work in Whole Foods,
Oh.
I see a lot of food that is being dropped.
Excellent.
And even they have practice, but there is something that we need to review and take more into consideration to educate the companies and the employees.
Yeah.
And because it's going to be an impact on consumers owning the same company.
Yeah, that's great.
That's why I'm very interested on the topic you're presenting.
Great, we have a big section on food, and we also have a separate food workshop just focused on the problem of food waste.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, one more.
Thank you. My concern is with real recycling in the business, in the buildings that we live. For instance, I live on Roosevelt Landings, and I would separate everything so carefully. And I see the maintenance people throwing things down the chute.
Yeah, recycling is a more difficult topic than it was a few years ago, I think, so it's become more complex. Yes, we'll cover all of that. And Nicole.
Yeah, so as Sandra started to talk about, it's definitely a journey getting to zero waste. It's not impossible, but it is difficult to get completely zero waste. A lot of us in the industry, I guess you can say, like to call it low waste. I consider myself somebody who's low waste. Being zero waste is very difficult. So just a key point to remember, it's a journey, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Don't be too hard on yourself. You're gonna have to learn and adjust, and really these things are gonna have to become a habit for you. It's not gonna happen overnight. It takes a while to make anything become a habit. So just to keep that in mind as we go through this, and don't get overwhelmed throughout the presentation.
So I just want to relate why I started going zero waste. I think for everyone the motivation is different. But I really had this kind of conversion experience, not to be hyper dramatic, but where I just started reading and researching and learning more. And for me, discovering that there's 5 trillion pieces of plastic floating in the ocean, that there's something called this Great Pacific Garbage Patch in the ocean, swirling plastic that's coming from me. I had this moment where I knew I had to change my habits forever. That was really my conversion moment, as I call it. And I just, so for me there's a real emotional connection to zero waste, and I'm sure for everyone else there's some reason that you're interested in this, but I don't mean to present this slide to give you anxiety. It's just, for me it's motivational. Like, the sacrifices I'm making are because of statistics like these. I just don't want to be a contributor to this anymore. So again, recycling. So a lot of people, so zero waste, the definition I would say is the practice of living in a way such that you are sending no waste to landfill. You're sending it to recycling, composting, or you're upcycling or donating it in some way. So a lot of people might ask, why is recycling not enough? I recycle. I'm part of the solution. Well, there are many ways to answer that, but in the past few years, researchers have done a very thorough analysis of all plastic ever produced, because plastic became a consumer good in the 1960s. We didn't always have plastic. They have managed to estimate, and I've read this research paper, it's online, that globally, only 9% of all plastic ever produced has been recycled. It's really a staggering statistic. Half of all plastics ever produced were manufactured in the last 15 years, so that means that our addiction to plastic is accelerating. There's more plastic, and it's our technology, it's easier to create. Why not? Consumers love it, packaging is important. And the last thing I'd say is, take a look at this chart. The thick slice at the bottom, packaging. Packaging, something that we throw away within minutes. It has a lifespan of minutes, and then it lasts how long in the landfill? And it's the biggest slice here, and it's the least important, there's most short-lived, as opposed to other things that are very important, like building and construction. So our packaging it's out of control. So that's my answer when people ask why isn't recycling enough. And also, thin plastic films are not recyclable, which a lot of us don't seem to still understand. So, yeah, we've got a problem.
Yeah, just to add to that, and we'll go through recycling a little bit more in depth later in this conversation, but we definitely want to start off by saying recycling is not enough. And try to walk away from here thinking of ways that you can reduce your single use and not have to worry as much about recycling properly, and you can reuse things so that this hopefully doesn't become as daunting to think about.
So real quickly, one way to start thinking about your zero waste journey is to divide your day into sections: morning, lunch, afternoon, or morning, afternoon, evening. And kind of group your day into those 3 parts. And so let's go to the morning slide. So wake up in the morning, and the idea here is just think about everything you make contact with in your morning routine that is ultimately going to a landfill. So when I started zero waste, my morning routine, always coffee, and it was my coffee filters. They were disposable. I felt good about them because they were the brown, nice, earthy looking color and recyclable. Going to landfill. So I replaced it with a reusable coffee filter. What about your toothbrushing routine? Our toothpaste tooth recyclable? No. So that's another place. How can you take that routine zero waste? What else? For women, for me, it's definitely cosmetics, makeup. Where is that makeup packaging going? It's probably being landfilled until I started thinking about it and making changes. So, other things in the morning that are waste.
Yeah, I mean, think about your routine in the shower. You're using a shampoo bottle, single-use bottle. When that's finished, you're using conditioner. Maybe you're using a soap dispenser. You're using face wash. There's many things that you're doing. Even before you're walking out the door to start your day, you're consuming this single use. And it's, again, not to scare anybody or make you feel guilty about it. It's just to keep, start having the awareness of it and think about all the things that you come in contact with in your day that you can maybe swap out, which we'll also talk about. So let's go to lunch.
Yeah, so afternoon. So I work in an office, and before I went zero waste, my lunch routine consisted of a clamshell plastic container with food in it, plastic utensils. Plastic utensils, even if you put them in the recycling bin, the recycling facility will landfill them. They are too small to be recyclable. So, single-use plastics, big part of my afternoon routine. I'm sure for people here, same thing. Anything else that comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, there were days where I was stopping for breakfast in the morning, getting a clamshell, a small one, getting an iced coffee. I mean, it gives me nightmares thinking about this lifestyle and pre-zero waste, but then the same thing with lunch, and as Sandra mentioned, you think about the cutlery you're getting, the bag, the napkins, the clamshell, maybe you're getting another drink. It's just, again, to get you thinking about all the things you come in contact with.
Yeah, and then evening, as New Yorkers, I think there's a lot of delivery. Frankly, I gave up delivery, which is really hard because my husband and I like getting food delivered. But that was a decision I decided to make. The black plastic with delivery, black plastic is rarely recyclable, so those containers you get that are black plastic are a real problem. So again, just trying to activate the mind in terms of the parts of your day where you're in contact with waste. That's the purpose of this exercise.
Yeah, and we're not saying to completely eliminate the idea of ever getting takeout again. I mean, I get takeout a lot, but I now will just take a walk and go to the place, bring my own container, and most restaurants are happy to accommodate me and put my order in a reusable, my own Tupperware.
Yeah.
I do that with lunch all the time. I mean, Just Salad has a reusable bowl. I bring that to other establishments and ask them to put my salad in there if I don't have time to go to Just Salad, or I've gone to Dig In, they've done it for me. So all you have to really do is ask. The worst they can say is no, and then maybe you won't go back there if that's your choice, but might as well ask and try, and I found this to work at several places, and it's a great feeling knowing you're walking away with takeout without any waste.
And the more of us asking, the more they have to do it.
Yes.
The other thing with evening, I would get groceries delivered in my pre-zero waste life, and all my produce came in those produce bags and packaging. It's really interesting to order groceries zero waste. So what I started doing was putting a note in my grocery online order saying, this is a zero waste household. I do not want my produce in any packaging whatsoever. And they listened. And when my online grocery delivery did arrive with my produce in plastic bags, I complained. And they gave me a $5 coupon or whatever, and then we would try again. But I even got some people from Instacart contacting me, because I Instagram this when I'm upset, and they would contact me and say, thank you for saying that. I'm going to look at the note now and make sure I don't put So the more you speak up on those online feedback forms, the better. But that's worked really well for me. I still am able to order groceries and get them without any of that unnecessary.
And I usually will stop at a store after work if I'm picking something up to cook dinner. I always have a couple reusable totes in my backpack. They're, they fold up really nice and easy, and then I'll have some produce bags, some mesh bags as well. I know most ladies are carrying a purse, even our
mesh produce bag.
Yeah.
Right here. I'll tell you what's in it later, but this is a produce bag.
Yeah, so that's what they look like. It's good to just keep them on hand with you in case you want to stop for something. I've even gone home with groceries in my arms because I didn't want to take a bag, but keeping things that are convenient for you if you do decide to stop and don't feel like you have to completely eliminate certain actions from your life. It's just making an adjustment. So we're going to dive right into reduce, reuse, recycle, and refuse. Now, this is what we like to call the waste hierarchy, and I'm sure you learned about this back maybe in elementary school, and it seems like a little bit elementary to talk about this again, but I actually only learned about this maybe 2 or 3 years ago, that it's reduce, reuse, recycle in that particular order for a reason. So the idea is that you should try and reduce and not buy items that you don't need or use items that you don't need and just eliminate that altogether. If you cannot, the idea is to reuse it and give it another life, a second life, third life. And then if you can't do that either, and it is truly a single-use item, properly recycle it. That would be the last. And then just a little tip at the end, where you can, refuse any disposable. So we talked about going takeout. If you do happen to not have a reusable bowl that day and you want to grab something to eat, tell them you don't want the cutlery, you don't need the bag, you don't need the napkins, just cut corners where you can. And I know you had a little tip about getting freebies.
I'm forgetting, but with freebies, my point is, I feel like we live in such a freebie culture. Like any event you go to, there's like a freebie thing for your phone, and there's these little gadgets and so the principle of zero waste is really like giving me peace around freebies and the clutter that comes into my house, because now I just say, I don't even look at it. I'm not interested in freebies, I'm not taking them. So it's a very calming practice to just don't even take them. And that's what refusing is what we're talking about. And during the holidays, Nicole and I are going to be putting a holiday zero waste workshop together, and refusing during the holidays is a whole different ballgame. Your family gets offended, and so yeah, refuse can be very powerful, but it can be hard too.
So this section, we like to give you some zero waste swaps. So you're probably thinking about various items that you go through in your day and in your daily life. And we'd like to tell you what we personally use and some great ways to start out on zero waste. So using a shampoo and conditioner bottle, you can easily swap that out for a shampoo bar or a conditioner bar. It does take a little bit of getting used to, the idea of having it up in a bar and getting it to lather, and there's definitely some trial and error with what type of brands that you like and have a particular liking to, but it's a great option. There's also some companies like Loop Store, which we'll talk about later, or plain products that give you refillable, the ability to refill and reuse a stainless steel bottle. So body wash is the same thing. If you're using it in a bottle, just swap it out for a bar soap. You could even encourage you to buy it locally from a local vendor, just support businesses and upcycling.
Yeah.
You should definitely buy theirs. Face wash, same idea. Lush is the beauty company, sells a lot of, I use now their face wash bars. Everything that I've kind of just transitioned to a bar. Disposal razor, you can use a safety razor. A loofah or a poof, you can use a bamboo scrub brush. Bamboo is a very sustainable material that you can get a lot of your swaps with too. Plastic toothbrush, you can use a bamboo there as well. A toothpaste tube, you can actually try these toothpaste tablets.
I brought mine tonight. These are toothpaste tablets, so you get this refilled.
Yeah, so that will get refilled, yep.
How are they?
They're very good, they lather. Okay, and so ladies, with feminine care, it's horribly wasteful, and there are alternatives making it onto the market. It's a very personal choice what you decide to do, but it's exciting to see zero waste feminine care products, and if anyone wants to talk to me after the event, I'm happy to do that. But makeup wipes, again, there are online stores now that sell reusable cotton rounds for your face. You never have to buy cotton balls again if you don't want to, which is great. I love my refillable dental floss. I go online and I buy a little vial. It's glass just like this, but it's tinier. I actually have it with me in my purse. But you just buy the floss, the actual tape as a refill, and you just keep the glass vial, so you never have to use that ugly plastic floss again. Recycled toilet paper, that's not zero waste. It's very hard to go zero waste in that area of our lives. I've read books that do propose certain zero waste ways to approach the bathroom that I think is a little too extreme. So yes, recycled toilet paper. Refillable deodorant is becoming much more of a thing, and it's getting better. Also make your own and go online. A lot of YouTube videos for zero waste. If you ever want to make your own soap, deodorant, anything, it's super easy to find on YouTube. And something I'm very excited about, I'm still waiting for this one, but Q-tips. If you use Q-tips, they've now come out with this reusable Q-tip called Final Swab. You just keep washing, and it's like made of silicone. It's supposed to be really good. And I'm going to be trying that out soon when it arrives in my house.
Yeah, and some of these are a little trickier than others. We talked about trial and error. So if you try one brand that's zero waste and you don't like it, don't get discouraged, try something else. I'm still trying to find the perfect refillable or zero waste or less wasteful deodorant myself that's good. So I'm just gonna keep at it and encourage you guys to do the same thing.
Yeah, and so these are brands we recommend, and you know, I like to show this slide with a caveat. We're not encouraging more consumption, so we're just encouraging swapping. If you need to buy these products, we recommend these brands because they have less of a waste footprint. But I don't like to send the message that you should go out and buy a bunch of zero-waste cosmetics. If you have cosmetics already that you're using, use those up and then buy these. One thing I'd also like to show is, this is a reusable, so this is my shampoo. It's Pantene, and it's made of metal, the container. And when I finish this Pantene, I will send it back to the manufacturer. They're gonna refill this for me and send it back to me. And this is through a company called Loop Store, online Loop Store. And they are pioneering refillable containers for things that are traditionally single use. So you might want to check them out. They're a little bit expensive, but I think they're going to get better as they scale up.
It's also great that there are options now with zero waste. So if you don't like a shampoo and conditioner bar, you can do refillable. So it's definitely not one size fits all. Everyone's different. If you can't get used to something, there's probably another option.
Yeah, and personally, my favorite shampoo bar when I wasn't using this option was Effique. It's very foamy, and that's what I'm looking for in a shampoo bar. I know you like High Bar.
I like High Bar. They're my go-to.
Yeah. All right.
So let's talk about kitchen swaps. So plastic wrap, really, there's no need for plastic wrap. You can always put it into a reusable container rather, or stainless steel Tupperware, or even a plastic Tupperware that you've had. Even I have Tupperware from my pre-zero waste days that came from takeout that I still use to keep things. If you do like the idea of plastic wrap, they have something called bees wrap, which is really great. I actually own some of that, and I use it for maybe like a lemon or avocado. It's also a great product. Paper towels, cloth towels. We don't really, again, need paper towels. There's some other options for tear-off ones that are more environmentally friendly. Bottled water or seltzer, that's a pretty easy one. Reusable water bottle or a soda stream. I know personally I'm addicted to seltzer, so soda stream is a savior. I don't have to constantly buy plastic bottles. Plastic bottle cleaner, do-it-yourself cleaner. Vinegar is really the only thing you need to properly clean something, and we actually have a quick do-it-yourself recipe in a couple slides. K-cups for coffee, using a French press or a reusable coffee pod. Anyway, there's a lot of ways to make coffee more environmentally and sustainable. So definitely get creative with that one. Packaged food, definitely shop the bulk section. Try do-it-yourself recipes. I've made my own peanut butter. I've made my own hummus and done different things, and it's great. There's no waste. It's amazing. You know exactly what ingredients are going in it, which is also really beneficial for health reasons. Single-use plates, cups, cutlery, use what you have. Synthetic sponges. There's some great cellulose kitchen sponges or silicone-based kitchen sponges, so they're not disposed. And then bottled dish soap. There are some, right up there in the picture, some great dishwashing blocks. And again, other companies that do refillable dish soap as well.
So again, some brands that Nicole was alluding to on this slide. Excuse me. I think that, yeah, so I was speaking about Loop Store earlier. Refill stations. So bulk shopping is woefully inadequate in New York City and probably in most cities in America. And hopefully in the future we'll be able to do more bulk shopping. But there are some great options in Brooklyn. For example, there's TerraCycle. You go into TerraCycle and it's all bulk, and you can get all your groceries in bulk. And there's no packaged foods. So these stores and brands are emerging as options. Food co-ops too are great for package-free shopping, and farmers markets, of course. And when I go to the farmers market, there's still a lot of plastic at farmers markets, which always kind of makes me sad. But yeah, I have about 15 of these fresh produce bags, so I go to the farmers market with these.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, yeah, one more thing, package-free shop. Again, a little bit pricey, but that's, if you just want to get ideas for what zero waste living looks like, I would highly recommend going to package-free online and just checking it out.
Yeah, and I just want to plug Farm to People again, because I get a big box of fruits and vegetables every Monday night. I don't have to worry about going shopping for my produce. They deliver it right to my door. The packaging is reusable. I give it to my driver every week, and it's amazing. So definitely talk to Rachel about that afterwards.
I have to mention as well, Zero Waste Daniel, top right here. As the holidays approach, especially, Zero Waste Daniel is a fashion designer who only makes clothing from recovered textiles. He refuses to use any virgin textiles. And his work is super, super great. And so we put him here as a clothing designer option, or clothing option. Quickly, so OnTheGo I think is one of the hardest parts of being zero waste. Traveling is so hard. I'm still struggling and working on travel. So plastic bags, I think we all know New York is going to enact a plastic bag ban in March of 2020. Yes, go New York. So get ready with your plastic your paper tote bag. But hey, let's all be clear here. Tote bags also are very energy intensive to produce. So don't go out and buy one if you have one, or a friend has one that could give you one. You know, they're not zero footprint themselves. Plastic produce bags, I think I've talked about those enough. But if you want to see my produce bag after the event, feel free to come up. Reusable water bottles, I lose these all the time, so I've stopped buying reusable water bottles, and I will just go thirsty until I find a place to fill up. Nicole's much better. She has her beautiful water bottle that she somehow manages to keep. I would have lost it 6 times somehow. Coffee cups, if you get coffee on the go, there's so many great options out. It's so much fun. We're going to show a picture of one in a second. I don't have much use for straws, but listen, if you need a straw, there are so many reusable straws these days. And we have an example here.
Yeah, so.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I actually keep this little pouch. Someone gave it to me, but I just put all my stainless steel straws in here. I have different sizes. It's great. It fits right in my bag. And if I want a straw, I just
Yeah, because you're an iced coffee drinker, right?
Yeah, iced coffee.
Yeah.
I like iced coffee, so definitely keep it with you. Give it to a friend. None of my friends know they cannot order drink with a straw in it around me. I'll always have one with me. And then I have reusable cutlery set here. So again, very easy. Fits right in your bag. Doesn't take up a lot of space. So, yeah.
And finally, when I started going zero waste, I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to eat out? Because I go to a lot of fast casual restaurants, you know, during the day getting lunch. And so at first, when I went zero waste, I started carrying around this metal food container. I'd go to a restaurant and say, I would like my salad in this, please. And they'd look at me like, what is this? And most of them would say yes, but it was just awkward, and it was, you know, there was a line behind me, and I had to kind of explain. And so this is a shameless plug because I work here now, but just out as a reusable bowl. So now, and I would be doing this even if I didn't work there, I just take this everywhere basically, and I never have to throw away a salad container anymore. So
I will say, I think there are a lot of places that have become much more aware and sensitive to this.
Yeah.
And I've had mixed reactions, but I've had some reactions of people who are like, wow, that's amazing, that's inspiring. Did it at Dig In a couple weeks ago, and the gentleman waiting online behind me was like, I can't believe you brought you on, that's so great, and the staff was excited. So sometimes it's an opportunity to inspire other people and motivate them and lead by example in a positive way. So it's definitely hit or miss. There are places where they're gonna get dirty, weird looks, and what is this person doing, but you never know.
And then one last thing about this container. So just so you know, we actually walk the walk and not just talk the talk. This is my food from today. I'm gonna take it home and put it in my compost. So that's what I do every day. I take like boiled eggs to work, and I never throw any food away. I put it in here and I take it home and put it in the compost in the freezer.
Mason jars are good for that too. If you keep a mason jar with you for any waste, I've done that.
Yeah, so this is a Stojo coffee cup. We were talking about coffee, reusable coffee cup option. This one like collapses in your bag, so it becomes this tiny little thing. It's great. I haven't lost that one yet. I'm very proud of myself. And this is what I was talking about. Like I would go to restaurants in the past and just bring something like this and say, hey, can I have my meal in this? And often they would say yes.
So this is the do-it-yourself cleaner we were talking about. Really simple: water, vinegar, essential oils, or you can even use fruit next time you eat an orange, or use a lemon, keep the rinds, and just combine it, let it sit to infuse, and you're done. And you can use, there's a glass bottle you can get so it's more sustainable, or you can even use a plastic one when you use up your cleaner that you're currently using and reuse it. All right, so reuse is a short section. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Most people know how to reuse things, but just a few tips to help you out there. Find another use for items lying around your house. I've often done this with creative ways and wanting to find different dishes for my shampoo and conditioner bottles in my shower. Instead of buying them, I'll find like the top of a candle and use it for that. So there's definitely ways that you can use pretty much anything in your apartment already. Look for bargains for old furniture. Buying used is definitely a huge practice in the zero waste community. I got this dongle here on Facebook Marketplace. Sorry about that. Yeah, and then with furniture too, there's some great Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, there's LetGo, there's a ton of different apps and websites that you can get some great furniture. Some of it's brand new, not even used, even clothes. So definitely encourage you to get creative with that. Go shopping at thrift stores. Thrift stores are really, really fun and awesome. And like I said, some of them have new tags. And I know for me, I have a lot of friends and family who are having young children. It's a lot of children, and I have a lot of birthdays. So I don't like to buy wasteless gifts anymore. I'll go to thrift stores and find things that are new and give them that. Or maybe I'll give them an experience and take them to a concert or a show. So there's different ways you can do that, but thrift stores are amazing for good finds. And then if you don't want to go to the thrift stores, you can even shop online nowadays. There's Poshmark, which is a great one for accessories and clothing, and now I think they have men's clothing as well and some houseware, so you can pretty much get everything on there. ThreadUp is a similar website you can buy and sell on there, so you can make an extra buck. And then whenever you can't, if you can't sell it, just remember to donate. So as much as we can divert from landfill, there's a ton of different resources around New York from Donate NYC, and I'm sure you've seen bins all over. I know they have them all over Roosevelt Island now too. So definitely there's a lot of different ways that textiles and items can be reused.
I have to congratulate you on finding that thing on.
Oh,
She got this gadget on Facebook Marketplace. That's impressive.
You could find anything on Facebook Marketplace. You don't have to buy anything new.
So instead of going to Best Buy,
yeah,
it's really great.
Yeah.
Really great. All right, so recycling. So our Department of Sanitation collects about 1,200 tons of recycling a day. If you haven't toured the Sims Municipal Recycling Facility, that's where all our residential recycling goes, it is an absolutely fantastic tour. You will see the pile, the never-ending pile of recycling that lands there. It's amazing. So worth doing. But anyway, recycling, we want to just make the job of our recycling facilities easier. They have to landfill a lot of stuff because of our negligence, and we also slow down their machinery and their processing capabilities when we throw trash in the recycling. So being a good recycler is a big part of being zero waste. We see this all the time, but it's probably worth just pausing and really, really looking at it. So what's recyclable? Paper, cardboard, metal, rigid plastic, glass. I would like to focus on rigid plastic. So once again, any soft or flexible plastic is not recyclable. So if you buy a pouch of nuts at the grocery store, or you buy a juice that's in a sippy pouch, maybe for your kid or your grandkid or whatever, those things are not recyclable, and they've become so common these days because they're so cheap to produce, and yet they're not. They're much less sustainable than the old packaging that we used to use. What else here? So in Roosevelt Island, it bears repeating that only non-recyclables should go in your chute. That's super important.
Yeah, and caps and lids, when you're recycling cartons and bottles and glass, they stay on. Because that's actually a way that the machines at the sorting facilities will recognize the item. So I know there's been a lot of misconceptions and controversy around that. Is the cap on or off? And even some of the photos, you can see the cap maybe is missing, but cap is on, and we've confirmed that with multiple sources.
Yeah.
So yes.
Another note on this piece of black plastic here. So our recycling infrastructure, or SIMs, they really want to maximize uptake of plastic by New Yorkers. They don't want you putting plastic in the garbage if there's a chance it's recyclable. And so black plastic is funny because it technically does go to landfill when you send it to recycling. The reason for that is because the recycling's on this little black, well, not little, it's on this black conveyor belt. And the way that the recycling facilities recognize plastic from other materials on the conveyor belt is through sensors, optical sensors. They can't see that black against the black of the conveyor belt. So the message for me when I heard this was, I'm gonna stop buying black plastic. My husband's vitamins came in a bottle that was black. We bought some food items that came with black plastic. Our takeout came in, delivery came with black plastic. So for me, my personal choice was I am going to avoid black plastic at all costs. Just something to know. They're trying to develop technologies to get around this problem, but it hasn't really been implemented yet. So just a word of warning there. And again, I know we're hammering this home a lot, what's not recyclable, flexible plastics, toothpaste tubes. Coffee cups are not recyclable. Coffee cups are not recyclable. They're not recyclable for a couple of reasons. Yes, they're made of paper on the outside, but on the inside they're coated with a thin film of plastic to keep your beverage from soaking your cup. That thin film of plastic is very hard for the recycler to separate. It requires more technology, more capabilities. So coffee cups are not recyclable.
Yeah, and a general rule of thumb, if an item is made of multiple materials, it's most likely not recyclable. So that's the same thing with a toothpaste tube. It's made from multiple materials to get it to that type of item. Yeah. And notoriously not recyclable.
Yeah, the
Same.
pouches you're talking
Yeah,
about.
the pouches, same thing with all these chip bags, these energy bars, Kind bars, Luna. I mean, you see so many of them in grocery stores and pharmacies now. None of that's recyclable either. Yeah,
So I've been exploring the TerraCycle website.
yes.
And so I guess there's some agreement with Colgate and with a few companies that make the squeeze packets and things like that.
Yeah.
And a few of the packaged plastic that, like, if you get a large enough quantity in them, a number of them are free recycling with
Yes.
TerraCycle if we get a large enough quantity. So this may be something that, like on Roosevelt Island, we might want to think about pooling together, because any one person is not going to have,
Yeah.
10 pounds of Colgate toothpaste tubes.
Yep.
The whole island together might.
We have a slide on that,
We
so.
do.
yes.
And-
Sorry.
And
No, I'm sorry.
And when we're saying not recyclable, I'm saying not curbside recyclable
Yeah.
in New York. You can't put it in your conventional bin. In theory, everything is recyclable, but it takes, a piece of metal is recyclable, but this toothpaste tube can be recycled, but it takes advanced technology that our curbside system doesn't have. But yes, we will talk about TerraCycle momentarily. Pizza box, it is recyclable if it's not greasy and oily. If it's pretty clean and passable, put it in the recycling. It will get recycled.
And if not, you can tear off the top of the lid, put that in your paper recycling, and then just put the garbage at the bottom that's too greasy. And then another note about the soiled napkin over there, that's not recyclable in paper, but it is compostable. So we'll talk about compost, but that's another good thing to remember. Yeah.
Don't you take your ink cartridges back to
Yeah, so
okay.
yeah, there's certain items, and we'll talk about electronics too. So we have everything, we're gonna cover everything. But yes, that
The
is,
print cartridges you can send back to the
Yeah.
manufacturer, yes. Again, not curbside
I
recyclable.
know, there you go, perfect timing. So recycling electronics is definitely not environmentally friendly to do that. There's a ton of different drop-off locations. There are some manufacturers and brands that you could send them directly back to. If not, you can go to Best Buy, there's Staples, there's Goodwill, the Apple Store, actually the DSNY on their website. Oh, we have another question. Okay, just one sec. The DSNY on their website has a map where you can locate different places that you can drop off electronics. They also host safe disposal events twice a year in every borough, so you can also bring all of your stuff. We all have a drawer in your apartment full of random cords that we have no idea what to use them for, so I encourage you to bring those to your next safe disposal event. Yeah, you had a question?
I heard that with rigid plastics, that you can recycle ones that say 1, 2, or 5 on the bottom, but not 6. Is that true?
So, New York City is a little tricky with that. Technically, it's true, but they don't actually categorize it by number. It's just rigid and flexible plastic. So if it's rigid, if it doesn't keep its shape, and it goes back to the way it was, you can put it in the recycling bin. Yeah.
Yeah. But the plastic numbers, they designate different plastic resins. And as you're kind of underscoring, certain plastic number 1 is more or less recyclable than a plastic number 6. They have different market values to the end consumers, so those numbers do have meaning, but just rigid plastic is the guideline. Yeah.
It is a twofold question. Is it true that stores that sell batteries have to take them back for recycling?
If the store is a certain square footage, I believe they do have to take them back. Is that with batteries or is that with?
I don't think it's for batteries.
It's for bags.
Staples, for example, will take batteries.
So now, on Roosevelt Island,
Yes.
I went to Dwayne Reed, and they told me, no, we don't take batteries, you have to go to the branch in Manhattan.
I know that there's a drop-off bin, and we actually have that highlighted on the map in a later slide, or maybe this slide might be, actually it's the next slide, so there we go. But there is now a battery tube located in the Public Safety Department. You guys are right on target with the slides here, so this is good, thank you.
Yeah, this is a great map.
Yeah, so this is the Roosevelt Island Green Map Phase 1. This is an amazing resource that you guys, members of Roosevelt Island, have put together. And it details buildings with recycling receptacles for different materials like we mentioned, e-waste, compost drop-off, textiles, used batteries, safe medical disposal, anything that you need to dispose of properly or probably have a location. So the map is also outside here if you need to take a better picture of it. And then you can go to that website, bit.ly/engagedri, to locate the map too.
Those buildings take recycling from other buildings?
I'm sorry?
The buildings where workable recycling program, will they accept recycling from other buildings? Like where I live, it doesn't have that.
I think so. It depends on the item, so.
Might be worth calling ahead or.
I think
that's, yeah. Maybe the lady from Beyond.
Yeah, I want to refer to somebody who's knowledgeable on this topic.
I think that would take a little bit of going between the buildings to, I think that could certainly be worked out, and I think that would be an exciting thing to get together. I don't think that exists right now as it is. That's certainly something that could be worked where people could, even if you knew someone in the building, you could certainly meet up with them and they could bring it to the other building.
I mean,
It
that's
doesn't
what we
exist
did.
now, but it can be.
We knew someone and took electronics and clothes
Oh, yeah. I don't see why
to
not.
their building, and they let us do it because we're trying to get our building to participate.
Gotcha.
And the management company is not yet ready for this.
Any way that you can make use of a community and combine forces on things, I think is fabulous, so definitely.
Move on. So this is TerraCycle. So TerraCycle is a company that does specialized recycling for hard to recycle items like toothpaste tubes, like candy wrappers. It's something that you should investigate if you're interested, like in doing it as with your building or with your community or at a community center. It's harder to do as an individual because you do have to either purchase or order a box. They have free options and purchase options, and they're big, and then you ship them back, and they require a certain volume. It's a really good thing to do with your workplace, with a group of people. So definitely something to check out. There are 2 locations we know of in New York that have TerraCycle boxes. Package Free Shop in Brooklyn is one. It's a great company and something to consider. So quickly, just kind of putting it all together here, hard to recycle items. So if you're trying to zero waste your home and you're trying to get rid of things that you know you can't recycle curbside, we try to put together kind of a mini guide here. So razors, soft flexible packaging, contact lenses, energy bar wrappers. There are free recycling programs via TerraCycle. So what's in here are my contact lens blister packs that every day I am obviously using. When I go home tonight, I will put my contact lenses as well in here. TerraCycle accepts both the lens and the blister pack, and I'll just take 6 months worth of this and I'll ship it to TerraCycle, or I'll go to a drop-off center and drop it off. E-waste and electronics, we covered this, but here are some stores that take e-waste. Toys, toothpaste tubes, pens, pencils, markers. That's a big one. Other ways, you can recycle for a fee via TerraCycle. So again, if you maybe want to do a workplace program. Large grocery chains like Whole Foods that have a certain amount of square footage are required by law to recycle plastic bags. So you can go, or film, so you can go to the customer service counter and say, I have plastic films to recycle. They will do it. I have done it several times. Question?
No, just let you know that Graffiti's here does it.
Excellent, great, thank you. Cosmetics, this was really exciting for a lot of us. So this upscale makeup brand, L'Occitane, it's not just makeup, it's lots of other things, beauty and personal care, but they partnered with TerraCycle. So if you do have cosmetics to recycle, especially plastic cosmetics, you can walk into one of their stores and they have this TerraCycle bin. They will accept any brand and they send it to TerraCycle for melting down and recycling. Origins is another company that also has cosmetics recycling bins in their stores.
And Paula's Choice, although that's online,
Oh,
but Paula's Choice.
Paula's
was added.
Choice, okay,
That
great.
was recent.
Great.
With TerraCycle.
Clean or completely empty, or
I don't think they have to be completely empty. I don't think so, because mine weren't. Thank you. Great, thanks.
Thanks, Christine. And then my husband broke his leg earlier this year, and he had this big boot on him, and I was determined not to throw that thing in the garbage, and he was fighting me every minute of it, because it was just sitting there in the living room, and I could not figure out how to get rid of it. I finally put it on Craigslist, like that, someone wanted it. So I love Craigslist for getting rid of items that you don't think people want, and guess what they do? Junk Luggers is an eco-friendly junk lugging company. If you have an exercise bike you want to get rid of, call them before anyone else, because they will try to recycle it. All right, so food waste. This is a very exciting topic. Just some more statistics to shed some light on the food waste problem we have here in the world, and in particular New York City. So on average, Americans toss out 400 pounds of food per person every year, which is crazy. Our wasted food produces more greenhouse gas emissions each year than 37 million cars, and that's because the food waste is producing methane, which is a very potent greenhouse gas. A third of what New Yorkers throw away, so that means it's going to landfill instead of compost. It's yard waste and food scraps, also known as organic, so we'll dive into that. So just some tips on how to reduce your food waste is do a waste audit. Take a look on a daily basis on what type of food you are throwing out the most. Is it scraps? Are you buying lettuce all the time and then constantly throwing it out? Are there certain things that you're wasting more than others that maybe you might want to eliminate or adjust? Freeze, don't toss. If you do have scraps from produce or other items, keep them in your freezer. They can turn into, you can make a vegetable stock, you can use them for pizza toppings. There's all different ways you can use those scraps. Get creative, as I'm saying. There's a ton of recipes where you can use the stems of broccoli or mushrooms or different ways that you can utilize that food and use the entire vegetable. And then lastly, just a quick tip, the sell-by date or expiration that you see in a lot of food items is not necessarily when that food is going bad. It's just that when these companies are signifying the optimal time to consume it for like best flavor and experience. So don't always get scared by that. So if you can't follow any of those tips and you can't reduce your food waste, you have all this left over, compost. How many people in this room, and when I say compost, I mean you take your scraps and you bring them to a drop-off site. How many people in this room do that? Okay, that's great. That's
Keep
so
the hands
great.
up.
Can you put the hands back up for a second?
That's so great.
That's cool.
Kudos to you guys.
Give yourself a hand on that one.
So we don't need to do a lot, but just for the people in the room who didn't raise their hand, we're going to talk about how you compost. So I'll go through this pretty quickly, but I know Roosevelt Island, we don't have brown bins yet. Maybe we will now. But we have food scrap drop-off programs. So these are places where you can bring your food scraps and drop them off. And I know the one that you guys have is at the farmer's market on Main Street. It's open from Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. And then actually beginning this Saturday, the drop-off site is going to move to under the Helix across from PS 217 for the winter season. So definitely hot tip, take note of that. Know where you're bringing your food. Sorry? So, for those of you that might not know or maybe need a refresher, drop-off bins are different than brown bins. If you ever do have a brown bin, the things that you can put in there are definitely more comprehensive than what you can put in a drop-off bin. So anything green, any plants, leaves, flowers, this is all from your yard. From your kitchen, you can do fruit and vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, tea bags. You could also, as we mentioned, you can put soiled paper in there, paper towels, your napkins, anything like that. You could use anything from your garden, leaves, straw and hay, eggshells, nutshells, soiled paper, as I mentioned, shredded newspaper, pretty much everything except for meat and dairy, which we'll get to on the next slide. So what does not go in the container from your kitchen, important to note, meat, fish, any type of meat products, cheese or dairy, can't put in there. Fat, grease, or oil.
And then some obvious things on here too. Yeah.
I just want to add, there's actually, so that's correct for the drop-off on Roosevelt Island, but there are over 160 drop-off sites
Yes,
now,
there
and
are.
some of them do actually accept community.
Yes.
And we want to acknowledge and thank Marguerite Manella for being here, because she's in charge of NYC.
Oh, great.
Oh,
That's great to have you.
Amazing. Yeah, so that's actually what we wanted to talk about. There are over 150 locations at drop-off sites. So if you can't get to the one on the, you guys are just on point tonight.
Can I give the web link?
Please.
So to get to this drop-off map really quickly, you can go to nyc.gov, nyc.gov/drop-food-scraps.
Great,
Okay.
nyc.gov/drop-food-scraps.
Drop food waste works as well.
Drop food waste works as well. I don't know about you guys, but when I see this map, I'm just very proud to be a New Yorker. I'm really happy that we have so many options for dropping off food scraps. It's great.
May I just also wanted to say that Dwayne Reed also accepts plastic bags.
Great.
Yeah.
Mine doesn't actually. Mine doesn't actually. So
the one on the other.
Oh, great. Okay. Okay.
It's by the
Subway
pharmacy.
By the subway, right?
So yeah, so for
saying the drop off bin is by the pharmacy in the back.
Oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. It's by the pharmacy. The drop-off bin is by the pharmacy. Okay.
I've noticed that people who do drop off their food scraps, that they put them in the compostable bags.
Yes.
And it's my understanding that it's great, but it's again not zero waste.
Well,
Completely.
you can use a compostable bag. You're supposed to rip it open a little bit so the air gets in. That's the general rule. But yeah, where you can, put it in a container and then dump it out and then bring it back.
And one of the reasons for the ripping open is because when it gets to the location, there's an auger that grinds this up, and that actually, it's like throwing your laundry bag in with the laundry. As opposed to allowing it to go free. So if you are dropping it off, open it up, rip it, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
And honestly, there's no need to compost with a plastic bag at all. I store my food scraps in a reusable bag in my freezer. It's like a water-resistant bag. I found something that works, so I don't even go there with plastic. It's not an option. And then when I go to the drop-off bin, I just empty it.
So choosing, on the topic of food, choosing local food is also super important for many reasons. This is not a comprehensive list at all, but just a few reasons why it's better for your health. Local produce, it's allowed to ripen naturally. A lot of times when you're getting produce that's shipped from overseas or even across the country, it's out of season and they're picking those fruits and vegetables before they're ripe, so you're losing a lot of the nutritional value. It's safer to eat. A lot of small farms and local farms are using little to no pesticides or chemicals like large industrialized farms do, so that's definitely another great advantage. And it's better for the planet in so many ways, and the main reason is because of the low emissions. So when you're choosing local farms that are within sometimes 10 to 20 miles from your home, you're reducing the carbon footprint from the emissions.
Okay, we're going to talk about, this is like the next to last section. Last section is very short. So textile waste. So how can you be zero waste in your clothing and fashion choices? And the first mantra is that clothing is not garbage, ever, never. A piece of textile, anything, whether it's a dishcloth or a sweater, not garbage, should never go in the garbage. I won't read these off or rattle these off, but the amount of clothing we throw away is absolutely staggering. It's really a function of the fast casual industry, making clothes something that we no longer prize and value and hold for years, but something that we now treat much like we would treat a disposable item. Use it a couple times and you throw it away. And that's causing a lot of damage. So, how do you donate textiles when a piece of clothing has reached its end of life? So many options. Craigslist, I've had a lot of success with. Housing Works is a great thrift shop that's been around for a long time. Goodwill, Donate NYC has bins around the city, so you can find a bin near you. Office charity drives. There are a lot of clothing swaps that they have newsletters now that you can subscribe to receive news of clothing swaps. Buffalo Exchange is a thrift shop that will pay for your clothing. Helpsy is another private donation bin company. And I always say this at our workshops, but I spoke with the founder of Helpsy, and she explained to me that this clothing is going often to poor countries where 80% of the population is wearing our clothing, and nothing goes to waste. Even a pair of underwear should be put in the bin. It might be used for household insulation. It might be used to make car seat stuffing. Don't throw it away, even if you think it's gross. Just put it in the bin. That's what she told me, and I thought that was really interesting. So, zero waste fashion principles. Mend and repair your clothes. I don't know how to sew, and I'm really encouraged by these workshops that are popping up, like Remade in Brooklyn, Mend It Mondays, where they teach you how to mend things. And there's also workshops for repairing your electronics, and how to learn to do that. Avoid fast fashion. Need I say more? There is a stat that a piece of clothing on average is worn 7 times before it's thrown away. And Nicole's getting tired of me saying this, but I keep saying, who are these people? I don't wear my clothing 7 times and then throw it away. I wear it 7 years and then throw it away. So yeah, that's just to me appalling. Buy more expensive clothing that's more durable and will stand the test of time. It's very easy it's easy for me to stand up and say that here. I know that's very hard. It's hard to invest like that, but do it when you can. Vintage or rent. Renting clothes is an option, but just keep in mind it's kind of like ordering from Amazon. You're having a truck come to your house and drop off clothes. That's not great either in terms of emissions and trucks on the road, so do that with moderation. Non-synthetic fabrics, so polyester is not a recyclable material. It's made from petroleum. It cannot be recycled. So as much as I love stretchy clothing, it's not great for the environment.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that recently I heard on TV that Macy's is having a pilot program of renting clothes.
Wow, Macy's is piloting renting clothes. How interesting. I will say too, if you're trying to drop off clothing, you have a bunch of old clothing in your closet. I have gone to H&M because it's near my apartment. They have a drop-off bin. I just get rid of it, and they apparently recycle it. We're going to move on just because we're running out of time, but we will be here to take questions afterwards. So just a little fun kind of facts here. What happens to your clothing? I always think this is kind of fascinating when you put it in a drop-off bin. You know, even recycling a teddy bear, that will make its way into car seat stuffing. A sock, that's something my husband would probably throw away, and I will retrieve out of the garbage. It could make its way into pillow stuffing, and this is from a company that recycles textiles. I just thought that was really interesting. Even if it's stained, it can get recycled. Okay, last section, zero waste at work. So for those of us who work in offices, I have worked in some very big companies in the past, and I'm appalled by how much plastic there is, single-use plastic. They're trying to make life easy for us, but it becomes very wasteful. So a couple tips that I came up with as I was living zero waste at work. Disposable coffee cups. I just started keeping a glass mug in the fridge at my office, and never had to use the disposable cups they offered again. Avoid coffee machines that use single-use coffee pouches. So those like coffee pouches that go in those machines, I wish I had a picture of them, but not recyclable because they're flexible plastic. Nespressos, they have recycling programs. I'm sure some of you know that. So in my office, I made sure we were recycling those Nespresso pods, even though I don't use them because I'd rather just use have no waste. Bring utensils and cloth napkins to work. For a long time, I just tied every morning one of my metal forks from home and a napkin, took it to work with me, took it home, and rinse and repeat. I've also gone into my workplace cafeteria with a reusable container, didn't ask anyone permission, and just did that every day. No one ever said anything. A lot of workplace cafeterias claim to have these compostable plastic containers. Plant-based plastic is actually not as compostable as you would think. It's kind of a dirty little secret in the waste industry, but even if that plant-based eco-plastic goes to a compost facility, it's most likely going to be landfilled. Our composting facilities just don't have the capability to deal with it right now. Shameless plug, but again, support zero waste friendly lunch spots, whether that's just salad or a place that you strike up a relationship with. A couple more tips on the next slide. Eliminate single-use bottles. Maybe your office is willing to invest in a water, like some kind of water system like this, and get everyone behind that initiative. Conference rooms, we seem to think that water bottles are like a staple of conference rooms. Make it a workplace policy. We don't do that. We offer refillable water, or refillable water jugs. Go get on a mission to eliminate coffee cups and lids. So many easy ways to do that. And switch to reusable coffee cup pods for your coffee machine. So now they have like these Nespresso pods that they're not an espresso brand, that they're compostable or they're refillable, which is really interesting.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to be a champion at your workplace and start a movement. I mean, I'm definitely that annoying person that's constantly telling people where things go and what bin, and I've talked to management, and I think we're getting a company to come in and give a talk about waste to reduce waste and possibly getting composting. I mean, there's a ton of things you can do, and even little things, and just educating people. And if you need help with that, I mean, Sandra and I are definitely here to guide you, so don't be afraid to speak up, and people will appreciate you being the champion to save the planet.
Yeah.
So this concludes the presentation portion, but we do want to have some good action points and ways for you guys to leave here with some ideas. If a couple of you could just volunteer, and we'll open up to questions in a couple of minutes. What are one or two things that you can say that you're definitely going to change or move towards on your zero waste journey?
After hearing
this very long talk.
Black plastic. Buy some reusable bags.
Reusable bags.
Buy some reusable bags for the produce.
Great.
Love that.
Produce bags. Yeah, right behind you.
Because I was one of the people that did raise their hands.
Okay. Composting honestly is one of the best things that you can do to fight climate change. Like I said, that methane is up to 30 times more potent than CO2, and that's a big part of what's happening to our planet. And if you can do one thing, I would encourage you, at least for me, is my personal opinion, is the compost. It's big.
I give a compost training at work because Giselle is going to start composting in all of its locations. And one stat I give is that if food waste were a country, it would be the third biggest emitter of carbon emissions after the US and China. That's how potent the gases from landfill food are.
I think on my side, I need to educate myself and co-workers and family, because you can find on the bins things you shouldn't find on the recycled bins or on the compostable bins. So we need to educate everybody.
Education.
Yeah, the food waste is one of the top solutions to reversing global warming.
Yeah.
It's as big or bigger than the energy sector.
All right, so that's great. Just quick, where you can find us, we are Zero Waste NYC Workshop Series. We have a new up-and-coming Facebook group that we encourage you to join. We'd love to continue the conversation and exchange ideas and be able to get motivation from each other on this journey, because we know it's not an easy one. We have a website, zerowastenyc.info, and Instagram, Zero Waste NYC Workshop. And We are available for private bookings, so if you guys love this presentation, you think it would be great in your apartment building or with your friends and family or your office, small community, what have you, we'd love to get this word out to as many people as possible and make zero waste a real movement in New York, so feel free to come talk to us or you can email us at this address. And now, this is the engaged Roosevelt Island website where you can visit and see tidbits from the presentation tonight, so definitely take a photo of this. And then we want to take like 5 minutes to open the floor to maybe like 3 or 4 questions from you guys. So thanks for listening to our long presentation.
Thank you.